Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The hum of the hospital was a constant, a low-frequency thrum of life, death, and the mundane administrative tasks that kept the whole precarious structure from collapsing. For Anna Devane, it had become a familiar soundtrack, a white noise that usually faded into the background of her thoughts. But today, there was no fading. Today, the hum felt like a swarm of bees trapped inside her skull, each buzz a fresh iteration of the same, gnawing anxiety that had taken root in her chest. It had been a day of loose ends and frayed nerves. A call from a contact in Interpol had yielded nothing but frustrating static about the ongoing, sprawling investigation into the remnants of Peter August's network. A conversation with Dante had been clipped, professional, and revealed a wall she couldn't scale. And through it all, the ghost of Valentine Cassadine seemed to linger in the corridors of her mind, a complication she had no emotional bandwidth to process. She was in the hospital chapel, not to pray, but for the silence. The quiet here was different from the hushed tones of the waiting rooms. It was a dense, absorbing quiet, one that seemed to swallow sound and worry alike. She sat in a pew near the back, staring at the simple, non-denominational altar, her hands clasped loosely in her lap. She was so deeply immersed in her own thoughts that the soft creak of the chapel door opening barely registered. It was the specific, hesitant footfall that followed, a tread she recognized, that pulled her back to the present. She turned her head slightly and saw Nathan West standing in the aisle. He looked ravaged. His usually bright eyes were shadowed, the lines on his face etched deeper than she remembered. He had the air of a man who hadn't slept, who had been chased by demons across the threshold of waking and into the harsh light of day. "Nathan?" Anna said, her voice soft in the sacred space. "Are you all right?" He offered a weak, fleeting smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Not really, no. I was looking for you. They said you might be here." "I needed a moment," Anna admitted, gesturing for him to sit. He slid into the pew beside her, the wooden bench groaning softly under his weight. He didn't speak for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the same empty space Anna had been contemplating. "It's about Ronnie," he finally said, the name dropping between them like a stone. Anna felt a cold trickle of dread. Ronnie. The name was a relic from a darker chapter of her life, a chapter written in the ink of Caesar Faison's madness. Ronnie had been one of Faison's most loyal and unhinged acolytes, a man whose devotion to his masters will bordered on the fanatical. His recent, quiet activities had been a splinter in the side of the PCPD, and by extension, in Nathan's life, given his role as a detective and his personal connection to the whole sordid history. "What about him?" Anna asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Has he been picked up? Did he finally lead you to the weapons cache you've been looking for?" Nathan shook his head, a slow, weary motion. "No. It's bigger than that. Bigger than a few missing guns or laundered funds." He took a deep, shuddering breath, as if steeling himself for a physical blow. "Anna, what I'm about to tell you, it's going to sound insane. It sounded insane to me when I first uncovered it. But the pieces fit. They fit in a way that makes a horrible, terrifying kind of sense." He turned to look at her fully, and the raw, unvarnished fear in his eyes made Anna's blood run cold. This wasn't the professional concern of a cop on a difficult case. This was personal. This was visceral. Faison had a final project, Nathan began, his voice low and urgent. "A contingency plan. We always knew he was a chess player, that he thought 10 moves ahead. But this was his endgame. His legacy. And he entrusted it to Ronnie." Anna's mind raced, flipping through the files of her memory. Faison's schemes were always grandiose, always theatrical. Poisoning water supplies, holding cities for ransom, personal vendettas played out on a global stage. A legacy? What kind of legacy? Another virus? A new iteration of the Ice Princess? "No," Nathan said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "It's not a what. It's a who." The chapel seemed to grow colder. The silence was no longer absorbing, it was oppressive, waiting. Faison was obsessed with you, Anna. You know that better than anyone. It was a sickness in him. A possession. He couldn't have you in life, not in any real way, so he became fixated on the idea of continuation. On creating a bond that even death couldn't break. Anna felt a wave of nausea so powerful she had to grip the back of the pew in front of her. The memories came unbidden, Faison's voice, slick with arrogance and desire, his touch, which always felt like a violation, the chilling certainty in his eyes that she was his destiny. What are you saying, Nathan? She whispered, her own voice trembling. He wanted a child, Nathan said, the words stark and brutal in the quiet. He wanted a son. An heir. Not just to his empire, but to his war with you. A perpetual weapon, forged from his own blood, to be aimed at your heart for the rest of your days. The world tilted. The hum of the hospital vanished, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in Anna's ears. She shook her head, a reflex of denial. That's not possible. He and we never. I know, Nathan said quickly, his hand coming up in a placating gesture. I know that. He knew that, too. Which is why his plan was so much more monstrous. He leaned closer, his presence a solid, anxious weight beside her. He needed a surrogate. A woman he could control, who would bear this child for him. But it couldn't be just anyone. It had to be someone with a connection to you, someone whose involvement would make the entire scheme a deeper, more personal violation. He chose Alex. The name landed like a physical blow. Alex Marek. Her twin sister. Her mirror, her shadow, her greatest betrayer. The woman whose life was so tangled with her own that their identities had been swapped, stolen, and used as weapons against each other for decades. Alex? Anna breathed, the name a ghost on her lips. But, she would never. He had leverage, Nathan interjected, his story now pouring out in a torrent, as if he needed to expel it from his system. He had something on her, something from their time working together in the WSB. A mission that went wrong, a cover-up she was part of. He threatened to expose her, to destroy the fragile new life she was trying to build. And, he offered her something in return. A massive sum of money, enough to disappear forever, which is all Alex has ever really wanted. And a promise. A promise that the child would be raised by him, that it would be powerful, that it would be a part of his legacy. For Alex, a woman who never wanted the burden of motherhood, it was a transaction. A way to buy her freedom and be rid of a problem. Anna could only stare, her mind reeling, trying to process the horrific calculus of it. Faison. Alex. A child. A business arrangement to create a living, breathing weapon. It happened about 9 months before Faison died, Nathan continued, his voice grim. Alex was out of the country, off the grid. We all assumed she was on one of her hedonistic escapades or running a con. She was. But she was also pregnant. She gave birth to a boy in a private clinic in Switzerland, funded by one of Faison's shell corporations. The records were buried, the staff paid handsomely for their silence. Ronnie was there. He was Faison's witness, the keeper of the secret. The boy, Anna managed to say, her throat tight. Where is he? That's the part I'm still piecing together, Nathan admitted, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. Faison died before he could take direct custody. The plan was thrown into chaos. Ronnie, ever the loyal dog, took the infant. His orders were clear: protect the child, raise him in the shadows, prepare him. Instill in him Faison's ideology, his hatred for you, his sense of entitlement. To create the perfect instrument of revenge. The pieces were clicking into place in Anna's mind with a series of sickening, audible clicks. The final project wasn't a bomb or a virus. It was a person. A boy, now a young man, who had been raised from infancy to hate her. To see her as the enemy. To continue a war he never started. How old is he now? Anna asked, her voice hollow. He'd be in his early 20s, Nathan said. And according to the fragments of intel I've gathered, Ronnie did his job well. The boy, they call him the asset in the few communiques I intercepted, is highly trained. Martial arts, linguistics, finance, cyber warfare. He's been groomed to be a prodigy in the art of destruction. And his entire worldview is built on a single, foundational pillar, that Anna Devane destroyed his father and robbed him of his birthright. The horror of it was so complete, so absolute, that for a moment, Anna felt numb. It was a violation on a level she had never conceived possible. Faison had reached from beyond the grave and planted a time bomb in the heart of her future. He had created a life for the sole purpose of tormenting hers. "Why are you telling me this now, Nathan?" she finally asked, turning to look at him, truly seeing the toll this discovery had taken on him. "What happened to make you uncover this?" Nathan's face crumpled, the professional detective's mask dissolving to reveal the tormented man beneath. "Because I think I know who he is, Anna. I think he's here." The air left Anna's lungs. "Here? In Port Charles?" "Ronnie's been making moves," Nathan explained, his words coming faster. "Small, careful ones. Money transfers, establishing new identities, making contact with old, buried assets from Faison's network. It's a mobilization. And the timing, it coincides with the arrival of someone new. Someone who has inserted himself into a position of trust, into the life of someone you care about." "Who?" Anna demanded, her fear sharpening into a razor's edge. Nathan hesitated, the name clearly painful for him to utter. "He's been seen with Maxie. A lot." Anna's heart seized. Maxie Jones, Nathan's wife, her own dear friend. Vibrant, trusting, and fiercely loyal Maxie. "What? Who has?" "His name is Adrian," Nathan said, the name dripping with venom. "Adrian Reed. He presented himself as a freelance security consultant, a colleague of an old friend. He's charming, intelligent, good-looking. He swept into her life at the perfect moment, when she was vulnerable after that whole debacle with the fashion line and the investors. He's been her knight in shining armor, helping her with security for her new boutique, offering advice, becoming a constant presence." The manipulation was so clear, so diabolical, that Anna felt physically ill. To target Maxie. To use her warmth and her struggles as a way in. It was classic Faison, strike at the heart, target what someone loves most. "You think this Adrian is Faison's son?" Anna whispered, the theory forming a chilling picture. "I didn't, at first," Nathan said, his jaw tight. "I was just suspicious of any new man in my wife's life who seemed too good to be true. So I started digging. His background is a masterpiece of forgery, flawless, but too flawless. The digital trail is deep, but it's static. There are no childhood friends who can be verified, no school records that hold up to intense scrutiny. He just appeared, fully formed, about 6 months ago. And then I found a connection. A single, encrypted payment from one of Ronnie's accounts to a shell company that was used to lease Adrian's apartment. It was a mistake. A tiny one. But it was enough." He looked at Anna, his eyes filled with a desperate, horrified certainty. "He's here, Anna. Faison's final project is here. And he's not hiding in the shadows. He's walking in the sunlight, ingratiating himself with my wife, getting close to the people I love. To the people you love. He's laying the groundwork. For what, I don't know yet. But it can't be anything good." The numbness receded, replaced by a cold, sharp fury that burned away the last of her shock. Anna Devane had spent a lifetime fighting monsters. She had faced down terrorists, crime lords, and madmen. She had looked into the abyss more times than she could count. But this was different. This was a perversion of life itself. This was a ghost given flesh and blood, a hatred passed down like a family heirloom. She stood up, her movements suddenly precise, deliberate. The vulnerability was gone, replaced by the steely resolve of a seasoned agent. The chapel was no longer a refuge, it was a briefing room. "Does Maxie know?" Anna asked, her voice now crisp and clear. No, Nathan said, standing with her. And I can't tell her. Not yet. If I go to her with this, a theory based on intercepted payments and a gut feeling, she'll think I'm being a jealous, paranoid husband. This Adrian has done a brilliant job of winning her trust. If I push too hard, I'll just push her closer to him. I'll be the villain in his narrative. Anna nodded, her mind already racing through strategies, contingencies. You're right. We can't alert him. If he is who we think he is, he's dangerous and highly trained. A direct confrontation could force his hand, and we have no idea what his endgame is. We need proof. Irrefutable proof. What do we do? Nathan asked, the relief at sharing the burden evident in his posture. We play his game, Anna said, a grim smile touching her lips. It was the smile of the dove, the legendary WSB agent, not the troubled woman seeking solace. But we play it better. You continue as you are. Be the concerned husband, but don't overplay it. Don't give him a reason to suspect you're onto him. Gather every scrap of evidence you can. Financials, communications, anything. Use all your resources at the PCPD, but do it quietly. Off the books. And you? Nathan asked. I'll go deeper into the past, Anna said, her gaze turning inward. I have contacts, old files from my time hunting Faison. There must be something about this, a hint, a clue we missed. I'll reach out to people in the old network, see if anyone is willing to talk. And I'll watch him. I'll become his shadow. He thinks he's the hunter, stalking my world. He doesn't realize that the prey he's been programmed to destroy is also one of the most skilled hunters he will ever meet. She placed a hand on Nathan's arm, her touch firm and reassuring. We will stop this, Nathan. We will not let Faison's poison infect another generation. That boy, he may have Faison's blood, but he is a victim in this as much as anyone. He was robbed of his own life, his own choices, and twisted into a weapon. If there's a chance to save him from that programming, we have to try. But our first priority is to protect the people we love. Maxie. Your family. This city. Nathan nodded, some of the hopelessness in his eyes receding, replaced by a shared purpose. Thank you, Anna. For believing me. For not thinking I was crazy. The world of espionage and crime we live in, Nathan, Anna said with a weary sigh, has taught me that the line between crazy and the truth is often vanishingly thin. This feels like the truth. A terrible, devastating truth. They walked out of the chapel together, stepping from the absorbing quiet back into the relentless hum of the hospital. But the hum was different now. It was no longer a sound of anxiety, it was the sound of a machine gearing up for a war. The corridors were no longer just hallways, they were a potential battlefield. Every face they passed was a potential enemy, every friendly smile a potential mask. As they parted ways at the elevator, Nathan to return to the PCPD and begin his quiet investigation, Anna to descend into the ghosts of her past, a final, chilling thought occurred to her. Nathan, she said, stopping him just as the elevator doors slid open. This final project. If he's been groomed his whole life to be the perfect weapon against me, what is his objective? Simple revenge? To kill me? Nathan turned, his face grim. I don't think so. Faison never wanted you dead, Anna. He wanted to possess you. To own you. To break you. I think his son's objective is far worse. I think he's here to destroy everything you hold dear, to isolate you, to torment you, and to ultimately force you to submit to the memory of his father. To make you acknowledge, in the end, that you were always Faison's. This isn't an assassination. It's a conquest. The elevator doors closed, leaving Anna alone in the bustling hallway. The revelation settled over her, not as a shock, but as a confirmed dread. Nathan was right. This was Faison's style. Grand, dramatic, and deeply personal. She walked through the automatic doors and out into the Port Charles afternoon. The sun was shining, people were going about their business, laughing, arguing, living. But Anna saw it all through a new, fractured lens. A young man was out there, a phantom woven from her oldest enemy's hatred and her own sister's betrayal. He was a living ghost, a walking wound from her past, and he was here to finish a war she had thought was over long ago. The game had changed. The board was reset. And as Anna Devane walked into the sunlight, her eyes scanning the crowd with a new, calculating intensity, she knew one thing for certain: the most dangerous battle of her life had just begun, and the enemy was wearing a face she did not yet know. Nathan sat in the dimly lit interrogation room, the air thick with tension and regret. The shadows stretched long against the cold walls, the ticking of the clock echoing like a countdown to a truth he no longer could keep buried. Anna Devane stood on the other side of the table, her sharp eyes studying him with that familiar mix of concern and suspicion. She had seen that look before, the one people wore when they were holding on to something too painful to share. "Nathan," she said softly, her British accent cutting through the silence. "You asked to see me alone. What is this about?" Nathan took a deep breath, his fingers drumming against the metal surface, the sound trembling with unease. "It's about my father," he finally admitted. Anna stiffened. "Faison?" she asked, her voice tightening as she took a cautious step closer. Nathan nodded, his gaze falling to the floor. "Yeah, about him. And something he left behind. Something you need to know." Anna folded her arms, her eyes narrowing. "If this is about another one of Faison's obsessions, I've heard enough to last a lifetime." Nathan shook his head, emotion trembling in his voice. "No, Anna. It's worse than that. It's something he was working on before he died, a project no one was supposed to know about. He called it his final masterpiece." Anna's expression darkened, and she slowly sat down across from him. "Final masterpiece? What was it?" Nathan looked up, his blue eyes haunted. He was experimenting with genetic mapping, using DNA to recreate people, or at least their identities. It wasn't just science fiction to him, Anna. It was real. Anna blinked, her mind racing. "You're saying he was trying to clone someone?" Nathan shook his head. "Not exactly. He wasn't trying to make copies. He wanted to reconstruct minds, personalities, memories, instincts. He thought he could resurrect the parts of people he admired or hated and put them into others. He called it Project Resurrection." Anna's breath caught in her throat. She leaned forward, disbelief flickering through her eyes. "That sounds insane, even for him." "Are you sure?" Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "I've seen the files. The research logs. He had scientists from overseas working under fake names, using hidden labs. He was obsessed with creating something, or someone, that could carry his legacy, even if he was gone." Anna's face hardened. "And who was he trying to resurrect?" Nathan hesitated, his jaw tightening as if he feared saying the words out loud. "Me," he said finally. Anna's eyes widened. "What?" Nathan exhaled shakily. "He knew I was his son. I didn't want to believe it, but he found out years ago. He saw me as his chance to correct his own failures. He wanted me to become him, literally. He collected my DNA, my medical history, even recordings of my voice and behavioral data. He was mapping me. His plan was to fuse his own memories with mine, to make sure that a version of him lived on inside me." Anna shook her head, horrified. "That's monstrous. That's not love, Nathan. That's possession." Nathan's fists clenched. "I know. I didn't understand it at first. I thought it was just another one of his manipulations, but after he died, I started getting messages, encrypted, coded in ways only he would use. Files sent to my old police accounts. They contained fragments of his research, blueprints, psychological profiles. And one of them was labeled Final Phase, Activation." Anna leaned back, processing the words. "Activation? What does that mean?" Nathan looked tormented. "It means he had already planted something. Some part of the project wasn't finished when he died. But someone else is finishing it. Anna's pulse quickened. Someone else? Nathan nodded grimly. A woman. She's calling herself Ingrid Hellstrom. She was one of his researchers. She disappeared years ago after he faked her death in a lab explosion. But she's alive, and she's in Port Charles. Anna rose to her feet, her instincts kicking into high gear. Where is she now? Nathan hesitated. She's been following me, Anna. Leaving clues, reminders of him. I think she's trying to trigger something in me. Anna frowned. Trigger? Nathan's eyes darkened. I think she's trying to finish what Faison started. The room grew silent again. Anna's mind raced through every dark memory she had of Faison, the manipulation, the obsession, the psychological warfare. Nathan, listen to me, she said firmly. You're not your father. Whatever he did, whatever he tried to build, it doesn't define you. Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. That's what I keep telling myself. But lately, I've been having dreams. Strange ones. Memories that don't belong to me. I see faces I shouldn't recognize, places I've never been. And in those dreams, I'm not me, Anna. I'm him. Anna froze, her heart pounding. That's not possible. Nathan looked desperate. Then explain why I can remember conversations between you and Faison that I wasn't even alive for. Explain why I know how he died, down to the last word he spoke. He's in my head, Anna. Anna pressed her hands against the table, grounding herself as she studied him. Could it be post-traumatic stress? Or suggestion? Maybe he conditioned you somehow. Nathan shook his head. No. This is deeper. I had a scan done last month after I collapsed at the precinct. They found neural anomalies, tiny implants near my hippocampus. Synthetic fibers. Not from birth. They were inserted. Anna's face went pale. Implants? You mean he put them in me, Nathan finished bitterly. Before I ever joined the force. I think he used them to upload fragments of his own consciousness into my brain. Anna's hand trembled slightly as she reached for him. Nathan, if this is true, we need to act fast. He could be influencing you. Nathan's expression turned haunted. He already is. For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of the revelation hung heavy between them. Anna's mind flashed back to Faison's final moments, his cold smirk, his unshakable confidence even as he faced death. It was as if he had known he wouldn't truly die. You said Ingrid Hellstrom is here, Anna said finally, regaining control. Where? Nathan exhaled. I traced her last signal to a warehouse outside the docks. She's been using it as a lab. And I think she's working with someone else, someone with WSB access. Anna's eyes hardened. You think there's a mole? Nathan nodded. Yes. Someone who's been feeding her classified files, the ones that reference Project Resurrection. Anna clenched her jaw. Then we go there. Together. Hours later, the two moved through the shadows of the abandoned warehouse, their flashlights cutting through the dust. Old lab equipment was scattered across the floor, tubes, wires, and cracked computer monitors. Anna crouched beside a control panel, brushing away the debris. He was here, she muttered. Nathan approached a large metallic chamber in the corner, its surface marked with symbols. This looks like a containment unit, he said. But for what? Anna stepped closer. Or for who? Suddenly, a sound echoed from the upper floor, a soft metallic clang. Nathan drew his weapon. We're not alone. Anna signaled for silence as they advanced up the stairs, their movements in perfect sync. They reached a corridor lined with glass rooms, each filled with data screens and strange devices. At the end stood a figure in a white lab coat, Ingrid Hellstrom. Nathan, she said with a chilling smile. You finally came home. Nathan tightened his grip on his gun. Home? You mean this hellhole? Ingrid tilted her head. You don't understand yet, but you will. Your father created you to continue his work. It's already in you. Anna stepped forward, her voice sharp. Whatever you're doing ends now. You're under arrest. Ingrid's smile deepened. Oh, Agent Devane. Still the eternal protector. But you can't arrest a ghost. She tapped a button on her tablet, and the screens behind her flickered to life, images of Faison, his voice echoing from the speakers. If you're hearing this, then my work lives on. My legacy cannot die, because I cannot die. Nathan's face twisted in anguish. Shut it off, he shouted. Ingrid ignored him, her voice trembling with reverence. He lives through you, Nathan. Through the code embedded in your mind. Anna lunged forward, knocking the tablet from Ingrid's hand, but not before the chamber below began to hum. Nathan turned toward the sound, dread flooding his veins. The containment unit was powering up. He's coming back, Ingrid whispered. Through the network, through the data. His consciousness is transferring. Anna rushed to the control panel, frantically typing commands. Not if I can stop it. Nathan ran to her side, helping to disconnect the power feeds. But as they worked, Nathan suddenly froze, his body stiffening, his eyes clouding over. Nathan? Anna called, alarm rising in her voice. His lips parted, but when he spoke, it wasn't his voice. Anna, the word slithered from his throat, heavy with familiarity and menace. Anna's heart dropped. No, it can't be. Nathan's expression twisted into a smirk she had seen countless times before. Did you really think you could destroy me, my love? Anna's world tilted as she realized the horrifying truth, Faison's consciousness was taking control. Fight it, Nathan, she shouted. He's not you. Nathan's voice wavered, his body trembling as he struggled. Anna, help me. For a brief second, his eyes flickered with his own warmth, but then Faison's voice returned, cruel and mocking. You can't save him. He's my creation. My blood. My vessel. Anna raised her gun, tears streaming down her face. If I have to stop you again, I will. Faison laughed through Nathan's mouth. You always were sentimental. But Nathan, gathering the last of his strength, pushed back. No! You don't get to win! His body convulsed as he fought the invading presence, sparks erupting from the implants in his head. Anna lunged forward, using her WSB training to activate an emergency pulse disruptor, jamming the transmission. Nathan collapsed, unconscious. The humming of the machine stopped, and the warehouse fell silent again. Anna knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she checked his pulse. He was alive, but barely. As paramedics later carried him away, she stood at the doorway, staring back at the flickering screens. One of them still glowed faintly, showing Faison's image frozen mid-smile, as if mocking her from beyond the grave. Later at GH, Nathan slowly woke in a hospital bed, Anna sitting beside him. You're safe, she said softly. The implants were neutralized. We stopped him. Nathan turned his head, pain flickering in his eyes. Are you sure? Anna hesitated, then forced a small nod. Yes. He's gone. But as she rose to leave, the heart monitor flickered irregularly for just a moment, beeping in a pattern that almost sounded like a laugh. Anna froze in the doorway, her stomach twisting. Maybe Faison was truly gone. Or maybe, just maybe, part of him still lived on, waiting for the perfect moment to wake again.